All right, what is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing today? Welcome back here today to finally some playoff reactions from me. So as you guys kind of listened to the Monday and Wednesday pods that were more draft related, I said that I was going to be going away from Sunday to Thursday. I know, bad timing, and I was going to be missing just for my reactions that I can give to you guys on the pod of the first couple of games of the playoff series. So I have a bunch of stuff that I want to talk about to kind of recap every series over the first three-ish games of every series. Some have obviously played two games right now. Like, we're going to get some game threes tonight on Friday, April 26th. So we can kind of go series by series and just kind of give my thoughts and opinions on what we've seen so far. And if you guys obviously on YouTube have any comments that you want to give, and I may come off a little biased in the Knicks Sixers series because I got a lot on my chest about game three, and obviously game two was absolute insanity that I couldn't come on right away and talk with you guys. So yeah, you guys can let me know in the comments what you think about each series so far, and I really appreciate the support on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. The podcast is consistently growing over there, and if you're watching on YouTube, please maybe subscribe, follow to the podcast on those outlets in the description, because then you can listen to the pod in the car, maybe at the gym or anything like that for some initial stuff. And I'm going to continue to roll out the draft stuff because I know you guys love that. So maybe one podcast episode a week is still going to be draft related, or at least I'll have draft segments. I think next week I want to do a draft Q&A, so you guys can kind of make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, because that's where I'll probably post the question as well. So yeah, we can start off first playoff series. You know, we got to talk about the Knicks and the Sixers. So I may title this podcast like Embiid's kind of dirty. If you guys watched game three initially, you know what happened with Embiid and the Knicks, man, because Embiid had some questionable plays, some questionable decisions. There was the first one where he kneed Hartenstein in the balls, which he ended up getting an offensive foul for. You could have said that was intentional, but you know what? It is what it is. Maybe it was just a bang play with big men. There was another play where he stuck out his pretty much ass and his hip, and he hip checked Anunoby straight to the ground. That should have been an offensive foul as well. 100%. That's usually called, but you know what? That is fine. Stuff like that happens. You know, it's a bang play. I'm not saying the Knicks no calls go their way, because plenty of calls go the Knicks way as well. There was also another kick in the balls to Mitchell Robinson after Embiid shot it. You know what? He's a big man. The leg can get up. That happens. It is what it is. There was the play where he shot the three. This wasn't dirty, but he shot the three. Mitchell Robinson doesn't even touch him. Doesn't touch him from every replay angle, and he's crying. He's whining. I don't get why Embiid, who's capable of scoring 50 points on one leg with Bell's palsy, and he is going to complain about that three-point call. I don't get it. Like, he can get his points elsewhere. He's one of the most talented guys in the NBA. And then, obviously, the big one, which could have been warranted of an ejection. OG Anunoby drives to the paint, who's a strong dude for sure, but barrels through Embiid. I don't even think that should have been an offensive foul, because he doesn't really lower his shoulder, and he's using his momentum to the rim. Embiid doesn't have his feet set or whatever, so it's not like he's going for a charge, and Embiid gets knocked to the ground. I think Embiid knows his body's limitations, and if there is physical contact, it's better for him to try to fall to the ground, and so he's not putting a lot of weight on his knees and his legs, because we've seen that before. We saw that insane alley-oop to himself in game number two, where he ended up having to miss a couple minutes in that game because of the knee injury. So he falls to the ground. The ball ends up to Mitchell Robinson, who goes up, and Embiid probably pulls off one of the most dirty plays we've seen this year, grabs Mitchell Robinson's leg and pulls him to the ground. Now, it wasn't on this play specifically, but it was later on that Mitchell Robinson re-aggravated his ankle that he hurt earlier in the year on a bang play with Embiid, that you could also say, you know what, really wasn't great intentions from Embiid. But that play on the ground, I was like, what the hell, man? Like, I'm sorry I'm gonna curse, but what the fuck are we doing? Like, that is unreal. That is inexcusable. And I know he's had his injury things in the past, and I know there was the Kuminga thing where he fell on him, but that's just like, what the hell are we doing? And if that was Mitchell Robinson that did that on Embiid, I would say the same thing. I would say that is bullshit. That is flat out bullshit. And honestly, like, DiVincenzo got in Embiid's face. Brunson was like, what the hell just happened? Did I just believe what I saw? I wish somebody, like, I don't know, went up against Embiid and say, that's not basketball. You were capable of scoring 50 points. You were an NBA scoring leader. You were one of the best players in the NBA. There's no need for that. I had a rant. I had to get that off my chest, because that was utter bullshit from Embiid. And like I said, if Brunson did that, if Mitchell Robinson did that, I would say the same thing. That is inexcusable. And you know what? I'm glad he didn't get ejected, right? Because I don't want the Knicks to go out and win as a Knicks fan in Philadelphia with no Embiid. And after everything that happened in game two, where some calls went the Knicks' way. I don't want them to get kind of something in their way there, and it's like, all right, you can only beat the Sixers with no Embiid. You know, he stays in the game, he gets a flagrant 1. Definitely should have been a flagrant 2. 100% that is a flagrant 2. That should be the definition of a flagrant 2. It doesn't happen. Knicks lose game 3. It's going to be a hell of a series, for sure. I mean, game 1 was so entertaining, down to the wire. Knicks won by 7 at the Garden. Wish I was there. Man, I got so much FOMO not being there. Game 2, I'm watching in the Virgin Islands, like I'm like some shady, was it ESPN? No, it was TNT broadcast. And oh my God, that ending, man, where so much went on. Lowry misses the free throw. The Sixers had like a 90% chance of winning this game. And then it just so much shit happened. Like Maxey pushes off on Josh Hart. Then Brunson grabbed Maxey's jersey. There could have been a Nick Nurse timeout in there. Nobody really got the correct screenshot that favors either side. And then Maxey falls to the ground. Could have been a foul on Hart, but I think that was more of a bang-bang play. But even if they don't call the foul, Maxey travels. So now we have a non-call on Maxey's push-off, a non-call on Maxey's travel, a non-Brunson foul on Maxey, possible non-Hart foul on Maxey as well, which I don't think was in the last 2-minute report. And then Maxey gets stripped, but there was screenshots favoring both sides that Nurse didn't get the timeout in time. He did get the timeout in time. Knicks get the ball. DiVincenzo missed 3. The Sixers, who have been prone to not rebound well in this series, or as a team this year, and the Knicks, who are one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the league. Hartenstein gets the rebound, kicks it out to OG, who passes it to DiVincenzo. Bang, double bang for Mike Breen. And then Hartenstein got the block on Maxey. And then Embiid missed the game-tying 3, and the Knicks won that game. So it was a hell of a game 2, man. Definitely some favorable calls to the Knicks. I'm going to say that straight up. It did go favorable for the Knicks' way. But you know what? If they don't, I don't know, if Harris actually goes for the ball, Tobias Harris may be the most useless $35 million player out there. Lowry hits the free throw before. They're not in that case, but I'm not going to say here and say the Knicks were the better team in game 2. They could have not been. 2-1, big game 4 coming up, which is going to be Sunday, 1 o'clock at Wells Fargo. And the Sixers win 2-2. It's a brand new series, man. It's a brand new series. So wanted to talk about the Knicks-Sixers series, man. I think we all expected this to go to 6 or 7 games. It's taken years off my life. Every game has been close. I mean, I thought the Knicks were going to win game 3, but Embiid and Maxey were not missing. Embiid gets to the foul line, man. Like, that's been a part of his game. I believe he took 15 free throws, if I'm exactly correct. No, he took 21 free throws. He had 50 points with one eye, with one leg. It's incredibly impressive. Campaign needs to play for the rest of that series over the 6 series. Like, Batum isn't giving them much. But it's still better than, I think, Tobias Harris out there, who cannot continue to play 30-plus minutes. Buddy Hield has been really bad for them. And I guess DeAnthony Melton possibly playing with some smoke screens. So, like, a very entertaining game, 1, 2, and 3. Like I said, I wanted to talk about this series a little bit. And I think, I don't know, man. Maxey's really kind of emerging into being a star in this league. He ended up winning Most Improved, in my opinion. I thought it should have went to Kobe White. I thought Kobe White had the improvement on the year, and I can kind of react to the awards later on, so I don't want to kind of go on a tangent on that right now. But Brunson stepped up in Game 3. He struggled in Games 1 and 2. He posted 39 points on good efficiency, 13 assists. And the thing with the Knicks is, who's going to step up? The Knicks bench was not really existent outside of McBride in game number 3. Mitchell Robinson got hurt, so we're seeing more pressure to Chua, who actually played fairly well on Embiid. DiVincenzo has been all over the place on this series. Josh Hart has definitely been the second best offensive player, but Anunoby needs to step up. I think he needs to be more aggressive if the Knicks want to win, and their bench needs to step up as well. But it's an Embiid and Maxey show, and I think the Knicks, like, give Embiid his 40, let the other guys beat you, shut down Maxey, let Kelly Oubre beat you, let Campaign beat you, like, because Kyle Lowry, he may not beat you at this point of his career. Tobias Harris definitely isn't beating you. He has no grit, he has no dog in him. They will out rebound him, they will out physical him in the paint, and he will not crash the boards, and the Knicks can easily get around him on the offensive glass, because the Knicks have been dominating the Sixers there, because Embiid also isn't himself with the injuries to rebound as well. So this has been a roller coaster of emotions in this series. I'm happy the Knicks are up 2-1. If you would have told me that going into Sunday's game, they're up 2-1 last week when I was pre-recording those draft pods, I would have been like, you know what? I'm cool with that. I'll take 2-1. They could have been down 2-1. They could have been down 3-0. Obviously, 3-0 would have been great if the Knicks were up. I would have been a fan of that. But this has been a very entertaining series nonetheless. And I'm very excited to see how Game 4 goes. Probably going to take even more years off my life. All right, next series I want to talk about has to be the LA Lakers Denver Nuggets. The Lakers go down 3-0. The Game 2 is phenomenal. Jamal Murray game winner. Lakers blew a double-digit lead in the second half. And now the Nuggets have beaten the Lakers 11 straight times. 7 straight times in the playoffs dating back to last year's sweep. And and this year's 3-0 series lead. And they just won Staples Center 112-105. The Lakers played well in the first half, man, but they got a goose egg out of D'Lo. Basically, he ended up finishing with 0 points, was a -6, could not hit a damn shot in this game, which is weird because he was horrible last year, but he had the first 2 games of the series, he was solid getting his own shots. But there's only so much AD and LeBron can do, and I don't think you're getting enough consistency out of your Hashimuras, out of your Russells. Even Reeves, who had a good game 3, I feel like has been a little bit inconsistent this year as a whole at times. And the bench, I mean, I don't think Dinwiddie's a good player. I don't think he should be a rotational piece in the playoffs. Vincent will provide you good enough defense, but you could see him trying to get acclimated to things again from the injury. And with no Vanderbilt, that obviously hurts a ton. And Taurean Prince should be back end of the rotation guy for sure. And you're playing AD 43 minutes a night. You're playing a 39-year-old LeBron 42 minutes a night. There's only so much you can do. And I do think if the Lakers ended up going up against the Thunder, maybe they're down 2-1 in this series right now. But I do think Denver's a better team than OKC. And Denver looks like they're on their way to possibly going back to the finals. Hey, my final predictions I made for the playoffs on my Soros channel, I predicted the Nuggets, which I meant to say before, go back to the finals and they repeat. And they're looking as dominant as ever right now. I don't even think we're getting a fully unlocked Nikola Jokic yet, who's going to turn things up a notch. And I'm very excited. Whoever they get in round 2, it's looking like it could be Minnesota, who's up 2-0 right now. It's going to be such a fun series. Jokic versus Gobert, who's been on a defensive masterclass in the first 2 games over in that series as well. And I think you're getting different kind of role-playing variety out of everybody at night. Either KCP has a good game, either it's Aaron Gordon stepping up like he did in game 3 for sure. Felt like he couldn't miss at times as well. And it's just he gets his smart shots inside and he's so physical and he plays with such a great chemistry with Jokic. And I think that's something that you really can't replicate as well. And that takes years of experience as well to know where to be on the spots that Jokic knows where to find Aaron Gordon every time. And it's just such a joy to watch between those two. And you're seeing that chemistry that we've seen with Murray and Jokic, now with Gordon and Jokic as well. And that's something that you know what? If you're looking at free agency and, hey, maybe it's Aaron Gordon, maybe it's Pascal Siakam. In a vacuum, Siakam's a better player than Aaron Gordon. But if you're going forward, Nuggets, who would I rather have next to Jokic, Siakam or Gordon? It's Gordon 100% because you've had multiple years of experience with Gordon and Jokic and they just work so well together and he's literally the perfect fit. That trade back in 2021, acquiring him for what they did and what they gave up, it was RJ Hampton, a future first, and matching salary. Man, oh man, was that a phenomenal trade for Denver going back on it. They're up 3-0. I don't think the Lakers come back down 3-0. I mean, they probably want to win this game 4. I think getting swept is not where they wanted to be. This series could be completely different if the Lakers ended up winning game 2 in Denver and they don't blow that lead. Some foul calls don't go their way and they're maybe down 2-1, but hey, they get tied up in game 4 or maybe game 3. They play with a little bit more urgency at times as well, because that third quarter was just abysmal for the Lakers and they're going to enter with some questions. I'm not going to talk about any team's offseason yet until they get eliminated, so that can come in next week's pod if the Lakers do get eliminated this Saturday or Sunday, whenever the next game is. And man, it looks like the Nuggets are definitely going to be on their way, but we'll see who they end up getting in round 2 between the Timberwolves and the Suns, and we can talk about that series now, which honestly, I'm kind of shocked with. I did not think that the Suns would be laying down like this. I thought they were going to take at least 1 game in Minnesota, and it's been probably the most lopsided series in the West. I mean, you can say that with the Thunder and the Nuggets as well, and the Suns could definitely win game 3, and the series doesn't start until a road team wins, basically. And every home team was pretty much undefeated throughout the first game in each series. And then almost in all the second games, I think the only road teams to win in the second game was Miami, which can't wait to talk about that series. Indiana ended up winning as a road team. And then obviously the Mavericks tied it up as well. So, 5 out of the 8 series ended up going to the home team in the first 2 games. And for the Timberwolves and the Suns, man, this Suns team, I was worried about it. I really was. I think this team is not constructed well enough for playoff basketball. We've not really seen a team perfect KD, building a team around KD for the playoffs since the 2016 Thunder, because I'm not really going to count the Warriors in this, because the Warriors, obviously it's Steph Curry, Draymond, Klay Thompson. That's all you really need on any team, no matter if it's KD or Joe Harris at that spot. And then, that 2021 Brooklyn team was obviously very good, very star heavy, but they had enough depth on that roster, and I feel like we're asking for KD to do too much. Booker did not step up in game 1 whatsoever, and I think it's going to be tough for them to win this series, especially if they don't win both at home here, because this game 3 is huge. Obviously, if they lose game 3, the series is over. Nobody's ever came back down from a 3-0 deficit. KD's averaging 24.5 points throughout those first 2 games as well, and it's kind of inexcusable for like Devin Booker to be what he is. Like Beal's averaging 14.5 points, Booker's averaging 19 points, and throughout their first 2 games, Miles Turner, Jalen Williams, Josh Hart is averaging more points per game than those 2. James Harden more than those 2. It's fine for Bradley Beal as the third option, but Devin Booker needs to step up here in game 3 if they want any chance. Shout out to Jaden McDaniels, man, who's been breaking out for Minnesota, obviously getting playoff and is going to be such a joy to watch throughout the rest of his career because he has just so much aura and energy and charisma out there, and it's just such a like fun player to watch. And that's why I could be very excited for a round 2 matchup between Minnesota and Denver, because like you see it every year with a player's stock just like basically skyrocketing throughout the playoffs. Like Jokic last year was always like around a top 5 guy, top 4 guy, wins the title, boom, number 1 player in the league. It was that simple. I mean, I think if like Embiid and the Sixers won it this year, we could say the same thing for Embiid. But like Anthony Edwards' stock rose a ton for a 5-game playoff series. And if Ant-Man can somehow beat Denver, like I'm already thinking ahead of round 2 between Denver and Anthony Edwards going up against each other. Oh man, like those Ant consensus top 10 talks, he's gonna fully surpass Donovan Mitchell, and Devin Booker is the best shooting guard in the league if you don't already think that already. So that is like there's a lot on the line for Phoenix here. They're gonna be paying so much luxury tax money next year after extending Grayson Allen. They have their first round pick, but going forward it's either swaps or they don't get it at all. So it's not looking good for them to at least have like the utmost certainty with their draft capital. And their young core is not great. KD's only getting older. Beal's making super max money. I'm not going to say this is the peak of the Suns core, but I don't see how it gets better going forward because nobody's trading for Beal. You don't want to move KD. But honestly, if you think about it, moving KD may be the best result on this team. I'd rather have 3, like, okay, it's going to be a crazy take, but obviously, would you rather have 3 Jaden McDaniels and Josh Hart or KD for the Suns team? Who do you think goes further? I'm just saying because I feel like at times their big 3 could be redundant. Nobody is stepping up defensively at an elite level. As much as I think Devin Booker has been impressive as a playmaker this year, it's not been, I think, as great so far in the playoffs. And I think for Nurkic inside, I mean, he's been good so far, I think. Like, and when he's off the floor, they really can't do much. But I don't think he's still a great big man, and his contract's okay. I mean, if he's going to play well in the playoffs, but I think there's other big men that have played a little bit better on similar levels and cost a little bit cheaper. But honestly, like Nurkic, I mean, I don't think it's really going to work out too much for Phoenix. I'm worried, man. If they lose game 3, it's going to be a huge failure of a season. And I don't think he's even been great offensively in this series either. I think it's been more a little bit defensively, but that's maybe only what I'm watching. And maybe he's honestly not been great to Suns fans at all. So I'm excited to see how game 3 works because I think it's like there's so much on the line for Phoenix in game 3 in their home court. Next up, just kind of a quick recap of the Clippers and Mavericks, with the Clippers convincingly beating Dallas in game number 1. Luka kind of just didn't look maybe like Luka in that first game, but they bounced back and they won a game on the road in game number 2, which is huge. They do play tonight at 8 o'clock, a huge game 3 matchup. I mean, Clipper, like the score ended up being closer in game number 1, 109-97 for the Clippers, but it was kind of a blowout throughout that whole game. And then Dallas winning 96-93 on the road in that next game, which is just kind of a huge I guess momentum switch for them because now they're going to Dallas tied 1-1, and those games are at least the first one without Kawhi Leonard too. That was such a big game for the Clippers, and I'm probably sure if you did ask like Clippers fans of the Clippers, you know, Kawhi not gonna or is gonna be out that game, how would you feel after 2 games? And they said like you're gonna be 1-1. You'd probably take that right now. I mean, Kyrie Irving has looked phenomenal in the first 2 games. Obviously, Luka is gonna be Luka. It's just who's gonna step up. Are you gonna get anything from Tim Hardaway Jr.? How is Daniel Gafford gonna look against Ivica Zubac? Because Zubac has looked better and has looked like the best big man in the series between these 2 teams. I do think that this is going to be one of the better round 1 matchups. I think this one and pretty much Knicks Sixers, I think, are going to be the best 2 series in each conference, and it's looking like that going forward. Like, I think this game tonight between Dallas and the Clippers is going to be super close. How is LA going to match up against Luka again in game number 3? Are they going to try to maybe double team him a little bit more? We'll see. How fully healthy is like Kawhi Leonard going to look out there? We'll also see as well. But I could definitely see this series going to 6 or 7 games, and I still like the Clippers to pick up, or excuse me, the Mavericks. I had the Mavericks originally. I still think they're going to pick up the series dub. All right, next next up, the Pelicans Thunder series. I thought game 2 would still be a little bit more competitive. I mean, game 1 definitely could have went the Pelicans' way. CJ McCollum had a chance to win the game on the road and shock kind of everybody if New Orleans could have stole game 1, and he ended up missing it. And I think that goes back to my thing with CJ McCollum. Like, he's going to end his career being just a fine player throughout his, I think, long career. He's going to be a good player every year. He's going to be a good scorer. He's added kind of more playmaking to his game over the course of his career as he's gotten older, but he's just never going to hit those big shots, right? Like, he could actually cement himself into a tier above of what he's been over the last couple of years, but McCollum, I feel like, does not have that in him, or at least he hasn't hit those big shots in the clutch and can carry a team, and he had a chance to do that. Like, we could have seen, like, everybody look at McCollum like a different way out there, and obviously he's played with Damian Lillard and not some other top guys in the league. Like, I think McCollum and Chris Middleton are kind of comparable, but Chris Middleton ended up getting a ring in 21 as he got to play with Giannis Antetokounmpo and Drew Holiday in a much better team than McCollum has ever had in New Orleans or Portland. I just thought we could have seen McCollum, step up in the absence of Zion Williamson. If he could have maybe had a series where he's scoring 30 plus and he could have had a chance to maybe surprise everybody and won game 1 because they were right there to do it. Herb Jones was hitting big shots. Alvarado was hitting big shots. They were playing good defense. He played fine overall in the game. He ended up just shooting 41% from the field, but he had 20 points and 6 assists, and then he followed up with a 42% shooting performance in the next game and 15 points. I mean, like, the overall efficiency isn't good, and I think McCollum had a chance there, and obviously Ingram could have stepped up a little bit better as well in just either of these games. Like, Ingram played well against the Kings in the second leg of the play-in tournament, but Ingram as well, 2 stinkers to kind of start off the playoffs. Just a little bit passive in game number 2, which is kind of a shame because Ingram is a free agent at the end of the 25 offseason, and as we get into kind of like maybe Pelicans offseason talk, that could be something we could mention as he's entering the final year of his deal, and I wonder if they would get an extension done regardless. I think there is still problems with OKC's size inside. Like, Valanciunas has been getting, I think, a ton his way, especially at the start of game number 2, but this team is still such an elite defensive and three-point shooting team in OKC that it looks like they will be fine. Like I said, it doesn't start until a road team wins. So, hey, maybe New Orleans shocks us and they end up winning game number 3 and game number 4 in New Orleans, or maybe they take 1 and then it's a 3-1 series. They can maybe end up losing in 6 like I predicted. But I think, obviously, without Zion Williamson, is such a huge loss. And if you're not getting that offensive output and somebody stepping up like an Ingram or CJ McCollum, or hey, maybe even like a Trey Murphy as well, like, was he going to come out of nowhere and maybe be like, you know what, I'm maybe the best scorer when it means the most on this team? I don't think we were really going to get much of an upset, and the Pelicans are probably going to get bounced in the playoffs, and they're going to have a lot of questions in the offseason as well. All right, so basically the 3 other series I haven't talked about. Boston, Miami. Man, oh man, is this going to be fun. I mean, it would have been so entertaining to watch if Jimmy Butler was healthy in this series, and I don't think he's going to play in it. Maybe there's a chance game 7, but it's highly doubtful that he's going to end up playing it all in this series. And Boston was heavy favorites in game 1. They ended up, making light work of the Heat. They beat them. They convincingly beat them. Game number 2, though, Miami ends up shooting 54% from 3. They shot better from 3 at 54% than they did from the field at 49%. They hit 23 threes, 23 for 43. Jovic hit 3. Caleb Martin is his twin brother, whose jumper in pregame warmups looked horrible. There's a hitch in it. Hawkins looked so much better in that clip that you may have saw on the baseline. He goes out and hits 5 threes. Hero hits 6. Hawkins hits 3. Duncan Robinson hits 2. Hayward Highsmith hits 3. And even DeLon Wright hit 1 as well. And they ended up shocking everybody. 15-point underdogs on the road as the 8th seed without Jimmy Butler. And they end up winning by double figures, 111-101. Kristaps looked horrible on both ends of the floor in this game. There was only so much Tatum and Jaylen Brown could do. Like, they need better offensive output from KP, from Holiday, from Derek White. And the fact that Miami stole game 2 on the road is kind of crazy. I still think Boston can win this series in 5. I believe they could still win the next 3, and they're still a much better team than a Miami Heat team without Jimmy Butler. But that was definitely, I think, the biggest shocker of the playoffs. I think Boston's going to be fine. We can look back on this series a couple years from now, and they ended up winning in 5 games, and this was the 1L because the Heat set a playoff record with 23 threes. I mean, a lot of those were wide open as well, which could come at like the schemes of the Boston Celtics defense as well. Were they fighting to go over screens hard enough? Were they kind of being lazy with switches? I think Bam is such a vital part of this Heat offense as well with his screen setting, and obviously defenses need to have a focus point on Bam in the half court set, even when he's not a 3-point threat either, because he usually takes like 1 or 2 threes a night, and he's not really a great 3-point shooter, but he has a fantastic touch around the rim. He knows where to be. He knows how to make the extra pass as well. at times for a big man, and point Tyler Hero got it done. I think this is obviously one of the biggest storyline games. It was super fun to watch as like an NBA fan, seeing the Heat upset the Celtics on the road, and it's going to be an exciting game 3, because if Miami goes up 2-1 and wins in Miami, oh my God, I can't wait to be on NBA Twitter for that, if that were to happen. For Cleveland and Orlando, we saw Cleveland make light work of Orlando in the first 2 games in Cleveland, and then they go to Orlando, same time basically as the Knicks Sixers game. They ended up losing 121-83, or that actually may have been on, was that on Wednesday night? That may have been on Wednesday night, actually, excuse me. Just double checking that. They ended up playing game 3 on the 25th, which actually was, no, that was last night. I'm tripping, I guess, with my timing. But yeah, Orlando convincingly won at home. Cleveland ended up winning by double digits in the first 2 games. Just Orlando's offense looked abysmal, and that was one of my like kind of concerns with Orlando in the playoffs. And that's why I predicted Cleveland to win this series, was who was going to step up outside of Paolo Banchero. Paolo was forcing a lot in game number 1. He turned the ball over a ton, but he was the only guy you could trust in the half-court set. Jalen Suggs was inefficient. Cole Anthony off the bench was inefficient. Franz Wagner, man, at times, just you really couldn't trust him whatsoever, and his three-point shot has really taken a hit this year for some reason, which is kind of weird. And then even in game number 2, Franz did not shoot the ball well whatsoever. Wendell Carter off the bench wasn't great offensively. Cole wasn't getting his shots, and even the shots he take were not falling. And Cleveland, who honestly has not looked great in this series either, neither team in the first 2 games scored 100 points. Cleveland, after losing 121-83 in game number 3, he's yet to score 100 points in this series, which is weird. I mean, if Boston's able to get past Miami, man, I think that's going to be a sweep in round number 2, and I don't think Cleveland has shown enough, and like Donovan Mitchell has been kind of disappointing in these first couple of games, but Banchero looked great in game 3, and Jalen Suggs really stepped it up as well, and they got good bench play. Shout out to Markelle Fultz, man. I'm glad to see him getting good rotational minutes and playing well in the playoffs, and I'm still a little concerned about Franz Wagner as a number 2 for this team, and I wonder if they like see what they have in Banchero this offseason. I was thinking maybe idea of moving Franz. Like, would you move Franz if Trae Young became available, if Brandon Ingram became available, or if Donovan Mitchell became available, right? Like, would you do that? But I think you'd be selling pretty low on Franz. We'll see if he steps up in game number 4. It's been a fun series, though. I know, like, everyone's kind of talking about, like, the other series a little bit more, and this has been on NBA TV and kind of all those jokes. And game 3 wasn't really that exciting, but I think, like, the defense in the first 2 games was a lot of fun. Like, you're still getting great defense from Paolo and from Jalen Suggs, and especially Jonathan Isaac in Orlando. And for Cleveland, like, you're getting great defensive play from their big men as well, and Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, and that's been a joy to watch. So if you like defense, that is definitely the series for you, maybe outside of game number 3 on Cleveland, or excuse me, yeah, for Cleveland's point of view. And then lastly, a very kind of competitive series so far through the first 2 games, 1-1, Bucks-Pacers, which is starting at 5:30 tonight on a Friday, which is weird on the East Coast, like 2:30 Friday on the West Coast. That is crazy for this matchup. Obviously, Giannis has been hurt in this series and may miss the whole series as a whole. Damian Lillard showed out, had a great first half in game number 1, and then didn't score at all in game number 2, which was kind of funny. They ended up winning 109-94 in that one, and also guys like Bobby Portis stepped up, Chris Middleton stepped up as well, and their defense was amazing. Like, the Bucks are still a great defensive team when they're able to put out Middleton and Lopez and Pat Bev out there. Even like not Malik Beasley, excuse me, like Jay Crowder can get them some good defensive play off the bench, and like some of the Pacers just didn't really look great in game number 1. Miles Turner was forcing a lot. Halliburton was kind of phased out of that offense, and they made Siakam try to beat them, and it worked in game number 1, even though Siakam had a great game. But in game number 2, Siakam stepped up, man. That is going to be a huge piece for the Pacers in the playoffs, as Damian Lillard, 34 points in game number 2, but the defense is going to be there. Like, the liability from Dame on the defensive end is going to be there. Siakam was great. He had 37 points. He was getting to the shot, like the shots he wanted with ease. His post game looked amazing, guarded by Bobby Portis, guarded by Middleton. It didn't matter. He looked unguardable. He looked like an absolute stud, and looked like why the Pacers wanted to give up 3 first-round picks for him at the trade deadline. Nembhard did his shots. Miles Turner looked so much more comfortable on the offensive end. And I know Halliburton hasn't been there scoring the ball, but he's still been a great point guard and a great facilitator nonetheless, and he definitely looks like somebody that can lead this Pacers team to a series win. So first 2 games were in Milwaukee. I'm sure Indiana is very happy with splitting them and winning game number 2 after maybe what they thought were going to win game number 1 without Giannis playing. But yeah, huge matchups here. I'm excited because most of these playoff series are still wide open. Like, Boston, I mean, that's the one where you still think Boston's going to be fine. Orlando, who blew out Cleveland in game number 3, it looks like they could win it. Like Indiana and Milwaukee are tied 1-1. New York and Philly, it's 2-1. And Philly's got the best player, maybe the top 2 guys in this series, the way Maxi's been out playing Brunson. So they could definitely win. I mean, the Thunder Pelican series and the Lakers Nuggets probably over, you would think. But, and maybe even Timberwolves Suns, but like the Clippers and Mavericks are going to be fun. Who knows? Suns win game 3. I think they're right back in the thick of things, and it'll be exciting nonetheless. So, you know what? Good round 1 matchups. And if we're looking ahead in round 2, like Thunder and the winner of the Clippers Mavericks, that is going to be so much fun to watch. If we get Denver, Minnesota, Jokic versus Ant again, and a much better Minnesota team, hell yeah, sign me up. Boston, Cleveland, Orlando might be the stinker of round number 2, but you could get Milwaukee and Indiana, New York, Philly, which could be competitive nonetheless. Hope you guys did enjoy my reaction to the first 2 and 3 games of the playoff series so far. I'll see you guys next week where I'll kind of recap what I've seen from the, I guess, Friday, Saturday, Sunday games. Hopefully you guys get a pod out on Monday, but we will see about that. There could be a loose schedule, just kind of have some like home stuff going on right now, so I may be TBD on that and what's going on, but nonetheless, hopefully should be a good weekend of playoff basketball. Make sure you're subscribed on YouTube, because on the community tab, gonna ask for your draft questions, gonna do a draft Q&A next week as well, so be on the lookout for that. So make sure you're subscribed on YouTube and hitting that follow button on Apple Podcasts and Spotify as well. Appreciate the support once again, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.